Hello again and welcome back to Illegally Cited for kind of part two of the Oculus Rift review here. First look slash review. And this time I wanted to show you a little bit about the Oculus PC software that you install when you install the Rift, the Oculus Rift and the drivers and such. So when you get the Rift, you plug it in. You download the installer from the Oculus website. It installs not only the Windows drivers, but it also installs this software, which is kind of a Steam light sort of thing. I mean, it clearly wants to be sort of like a Steam-esque kind of a place where you have a store, you have your library tab, you have some basic settings, there's a little bit of basic friend stuff in here, but I don't have any Oculus friends right now, and from what I hear, there's not really a whole lot you can do with the friends stuff at this moment, but it's just a basic interface, but it gets the job done. Now, before I talk about the actual software itself, one thing that I'm really glad about is I'm glad for this PC software and that I can do some of the tasks with it instead of needing to rely on Oculus Home to launch apps and change settings and things, because let me tell you, when I first installed the drivers, and the install setup process was actually pretty good. I really didn't have too much of a problem other than me being stupid with my remote and having to later pair that, and I'll show you in this video where you do so if need be. But the problem was I installed it, it told me to put the headset on to finish a few things, I did, it worked, and then it took me through a couple of these, 3 or 4 of these short virtual reality demo scenes. There was like a dinosaur one where a dinosaur was walking up to you. You had a little alien dude one. There was like one at the top of some cityscape looking down. And like an animated, what was it, like an animated one with like a bull and a bird or something. I forget exactly what it was. But a couple of these little scenes, and that was kind of cool. And after those short little clips, just to kind of, show someone VR for the first time, you were brought to Oculus Home in the headset. And, well, that's when I got a little scared, because unfortunately I can't show you right now because, to the best of my knowledge, as I said in the last part of the video, that it does not let you mirror the Oculus Home onto your monitor, so I can't show you that directly. But basically it puts you in this kind of like a Japanese style, kind of like a zen little area. There's a fireplace off to your left, and then you have this giant kind of screen thing in front of you in this just kind of environment. And in the middle you have this kind of grid of tiles for, kind of like highlighted games or experiences, or I'm not exactly sure what's there because I can't read it very well. And then on the left-hand side you have a little kind of a side pane or a side little window, and on the right you have a side little window, and it's only by really watching some other YouTube videos that I kind of discovered what those were. So like the main part is like your main looking for apps and games and different things like that. Your left side is kind of like a history sort of a thing. And your right side, I guess, is like a friends list. I would not have gotten that just from being in Home myself, because, again, the problem with that part is that, and again, this is going to make a lot more sense. Watch for my next couple of videos especially on Dread Halls and Radial G. I'll apologize in advance for the audio of Radial G, because despite turning down volume everywhere I could think of, the game audio in that is really kind of loud, so I'm not quite sure how to get around that. But especially Dread Halls, I talk a lot more about being inside the Rift and a couple of tricks I learned, but essentially you can, in some areas, I find that, with the head tracking, you can kind of sit back far enough from the camera, lean back a little bit, and then you center your view within the experience, because usually there's a button for that, and then you can actually lean in to the interface. So if I need to get closer to some text or a menu option or a dialogue or even some kind of an item in the game, sometimes you can do that. And sometimes you can't. In Oculus Home, you can't. They kind of have it set up where it's like you are looking at this, you're in this kind of Zen area and you have this giant, thing in front of you, but it's kind of it's virtually several feet in front of you away from your face. And as we all know, that is a very big problem for yours truly and other low vision / legally blind gamers, I would assume, as well. So navigating that is just really not an option right now. I mean, I know if you have perfect vision, you're probably fine, and it doesn't really matter, but for me, it does make a big difference. Thankfully, I discovered you have on the top here, you have your Store tab and your Library tab. If I click over to my library, these are the things that I have installed so far. Not too many, but I've got a few free, just kind of little experiences here and a few games. I can click play on any one of these and initiate it from my desktop. Thank God. Because if I had to do it through the Oculus Home interface, we would be in trouble, and it would be a lot more stuff to figure out. So going back to the store here, like I said, it's a really simple kind of thing we got going on here. Now, as I'm recording this, when I recorded the other videos over the past week and a half or so, I was using an older driver version and a little bit older version of the software. Just last night, I sat down on my computer to do something else, and I saw a notification that said, hey, I have a Oculus software update that I can do. So I did that, and then it also said, oh, by the way, you have a driver update, so you want to do that? I'm like, sure, okay. So we did that, and then after doing so, I realized not only do we have the dreaded Steam sale for the next couple of weeks, I noticed we have an Oculus sale as well. So after recording this particular video, and maybe while I'm uploading, I's gonna have to check out some Steam or some VR sales here. Maybe pick up a few games, especially some Oculus exclusives, on the cheap. So yeah. Sale, it tells me the sale here is, was it in July 4th or 5th? So there you go. But basically, it kind of just, you have a section for the sale. It usually has a section for games and experiences and kind of just all kinds of different things. Oh yeah, I'm going to have to look at... Now, what I also heard fairly recently is Hulu is doing some stuff. They have a small amount of VR content available, I guess now, judging by that big old icon that I maybe will have to install shortly. But I've also heard they've partnered with somebody now, and I guess in the future they're going to be offering some concerts in virtual reality, and that strikes me as interesting. I'm just hoping they have some good bands. I'm really interested in trying out virtual concerts, sporting events. Like I said, I think, the NFL is toying with doing some VR coverage. I want to say WWE might be. Now, I'm not huge into wrestling. I watched a little bit of it back in the day, in my early college days, but, not really into that. But it would be kind of fascinating because, like I said, you may be able to have multiple viewpoints. Maybe you have a viewpoint from right front stage, or right up by the 50-yard line, or right up, as the football gets moved down the field. Maybe I can just keep up with, maybe it puts it where the line of scrimmage is, like on the side of the field, or maybe I can look from the, they have helmet cams and stuff in the games and weird things. Maybe eventually you'll have like a helmet cam for the quarterback or something. I don't know. wrestling, maybe you get a ringside seat. So like I said, especially if you're visually impaired, going to a lot of these live events, myself going to concerts, and I've gone to several of those in the last few years, and they're great, but unless you're like right there, you have some trouble seeing some of the detail. Like, you can appreciate the music and you can see kind of the fireworks and explosions and sometimes some of the stuff on the big screen, but actually seeing the band in detail and stuff like that, maybe not so much. And so, like, hey, if I can get a good concert and have front row seats, I'm actually kind of into this sort of VR experiences, going on tours of stuff, walking up close and looking at things. So I'm really interested, as I've said before, in some of the non-gaming VR applications. I'm genuinely kind of excited to see what people buy into. I have a video recorded of a very cool experience for you guys later this week about, there's an app called Foo VR. So keep an eye out for that. That has some potential that looks very, very cool. I was super impressed with the pilot, but you guys are going to have to wait a few days to see that, and that's all I'm going to say. So scrolling down the main page, like I said, you just got a whole bunch of these different categories. Let me zoom in a little bit because this is a low vision channel. We're going to use Windows Magnifier. Okay, yeah, so family access. Okay, top sellers. Oh, I haven't recorded one for this yet, but this is one game that I really wanted to try, Chronos. I did buy it, and sadly, I'm going to have to do a video on it probably at some point, but unless I can figure some stuff out, this is a game that's going to illustrate some of the major problems of virtual reality. Real bummer, because the game actually looks good, and it looks pretty fun, but I have some problems with it. I've played that a little bit. Haven't bought that yet. Are you on sale? No, you are not. Okay, Project Cars, no. Oh yeah, you are on sale. I don't know how much of a simulation game that is. So, but basically, like I said, you have these different sections here. Apps, you got the Jaunt VR, you've got video, I've got some of those. Yeah, I'm just, like I said, a lot of these are either free or, cheap. Some aren't, but I'm interested in seeing those. Yeah, so entertainment, these are more of like your kind of like animated shorts. Abe VR, I don't own that, but I will probably, now that I see that it's free. Well, you know what, let's go into that. Because let's say that it was something that I wanted. I've got a video here that I can play. I get a description of what it is. It's probably some kind of an animated thing here, I'm guessing. Now, over on the right, these are things that you're going to want to pay attention to when you go into a game or a experience or entertainment, whatever they call it here. So I've got my free button. If I click on this, it's just going to start the installer. Let's install it. Why not? Shunk. There we go. We got a little install meter there. Under here, you're going to have some ratings. This one says comfortable. And from what I've seen so far, you have 3 different ratings. You have comfortable, moderate, and intense. I think moderate is like a square, and then the triangle for intense. That kind of ties into like how susceptible somebody might be to VR motion sickness or things like that, where there's times where, and again, I kind of talk more about this in the Dread Halls video. It's a long one, but it's actually I think I cover a lot of just general VR topics and a lot about like using VR as a visually impaired person in that video. So that will be coming up here tomorrow. But like there's some stuff with where when you are in the experience, if you're looking around an environment, it feels like you're there. If your environment is moving, you're walking or you're in a car, you're in a spaceship, a roller coaster, whatever it is, it feels more like you're moving. It doesn't feel like just a flat screen. So That's where I think there's a disconnect because your body thinks it's moving, but you're not actually moving. What else we got here? Internet connection not required. Surprisingly, this doesn't actually even have. Usually, it'll have like an indicator for like a remote or a controller. It'll tell you what kind of input device it wants. And so far, what I've seen is if it wants the remote, you can still use the Xbox controller, and usually the A button will act as a select button. So let's go back to let's go to Chronos. Here we go. So this one, it says it's comfortable, I guess. This one, it wants a controller, and it tells you whether you need to be online, because there are a couple of like Eve Valkyrie, which I haven't even actually tried yet. You can play online against people. So this one says start because I already have it installed. We're not going to do that. So you get the idea. It's just a really simple sort of interface. Let me go all the way back up to the top here. So again, you have your back button. You have a store, which is what we're on. I definitely have to look at this sale here. And oh, my wallet. Thank God today is payday because the wallet's been bleeding the last day or so. There's some Audible stuff, and there was some Steam sale stuff that I got yesterday, and I still want to look through Steam to see what they have for VR things on sale that are compatible with the Rift. Yeah, this weekend's not going to be pretty. If I go library, yeah, okay, so I'm not going to click this, but eventually I will have to click this, and it's like a final step where I have to do like a UAC dialogue. It'll say, oh, weird. So if you do all of these seem to have updates. Okay, so that one is the one I just installed, and that one I can just play. VR, I gotta check that out again. That's so cool. So Lucky's Tale has had an update, and if I click it, it would give me the UAC dialogue, and I don't want to do that because I don't know if it'll affect the recording. And this one here also does. Very interesting. So at first I downloaded them and like, why is there a download arrow or something? And basically it's just like a finish thing. You have to give it permission if UAC is enabled in Windows. It's not a big deal. And it doesn't, once, it's not like it still has to do the full install. You click it and boom, it's just done. It's there. So I don't think that you can really, okay, updates for, I haven't even really looked at this sidebar, installed. So I can say if I own things, but maybe I uninstall them. To be honest with you, other than maybe add or remove programs, like if let's say I didn't want Chronos installed because I was unable to play it, I wonder what happens if I right click. Can I? Whoa, that's oh, okay, uninstall. Woohoo! 6.5. Oh wow, okay, a little over 6 gigs. So there you go. That's how I just learned how to uninstall the Rift game. So I can do updates. It'll just show those. Let's get out a magnifier here. So there you go. I've got a few updates that are pending that I need to take care of. But yeah, it downloads them in the background and then just has you verify them. So it's a very simple very simple interface, especially as more titles come out. I'm glad that you have tabs for uninstalled and installed categories, but it might be nice to be able to make your own categories or maybe have even their own preset categories to start with, like, just like they do in the store. On the left-hand side, have a section for games, have one for entertainment, have one for apps, like video apps, and maybe there's going to be, like this is the Hulu thing, and whatever's under there. So even just starting with those, maybe I don't want to sift through all my games and I just want to find a video app, or maybe I want to find a specific game, that sort of a thing. So that's really this screen. Let's see what else. You have a search tab, or actually this is friends. I don't have any friends here. This is nothing going to really be able to show you. I don't remember what this lightning thing is. Oh, notifications. Gotcha. See, I like words. Like, I understand what words mean. I'm able to read. But sometimes I'm like, I don't know what some of these weird little graphic-y symbols mean. Now I am going to stay magnified to go into settings. There is a search right there. And the search just basically appears kind of in the middle here. You can just type up and it'll bring up your answers or bring up your results. I'm going to go to settings and I'm going to purposely do this so that hopefully it won't show on the video. I don't want to show any of my personal information. So under settings, I can choose settings, help, or sign out. I'm going to go to settings real quick because there's a couple things I want to show you here. So we're going to zip over to the left-hand side and we're going to click General. So under General, this is the setting you're going to probably want to check. Unknown sources. If I scroll over, you see that I have it checked. If you do not check this item, you are only going to be able to play experiences, VR experiences, from within the Oculus desktop application. If you check it, you can play things through Steam, if they're compatible. You can play things, I haven't actually tried any or really that are not through Steam or through the Oculus app. But maybe potentially if there was something that maybe works with the consumer Rift, you know, when they were doing development kits and it's just a self-contained executable, maybe that would work. But basically, you want to be able to play compatible content. Maybe there's better Steam sales. Maybe the Steam sales are lower priced for Rift games than the Oculus Store itself. This will let you play that content, assuming it's compatible. Terms of service. So, I mean, you just got some basic, some general stuff in there. So you got your categories, got your account, your privacy settings. Devices, this is where it tells you the status of what's going on. So my Rift is connected, my remote is connected and on. We're good there. My sensor bar is working properly, or I keep calling it a sensor bar. It's not a Wii, you guys. If when I didn't have my remote connected here, I actually had to go to my Oculus Rift little drop-down thing, click on it, and one of my options was to set up a remote. And then it would kind of put the Rift into pairing mode, and then it told me what I had to hold down. I think I had to hold down the select button in the middle and the Oculus button right down there, and then there's a little light inside of the remote, like inside of that little button there that'll blink fast. And once you have the plastic thing onto there, it pairs just fine. Just when I was stupid the first day and couldn't get the rest of the plasticky thing out, that's where I really had some trouble and I didn't get it to initially pair. So that's where you can kind of manage your devices, and if you need to recalibrate your Rift for whatever reason, there's some options in there. So that's your devices area. But really, there's not a whole lot to talk about here. It's a very simple sort of an interface. Definitely could grow. I'd like to see more sorting in categories for the library tab, but I am thankful that you can have a library on the desktop software and not just in Oculus Home. Trying to think if there's anything I should actually cover as far as like the Rift itself, as far as the hardware, the software. Like I said, setting it up was easy. I didn't have any problem with that. I talked about on the other part of the video the comfort and everything, the features of the hardware. The software, like I said, it works. I'm glad that you have the library tab. You definitely want to check that unknown sources under options. But in general, like I said, as a low vision user, this app works fine. I can use Windows Magnifier with it. That's okay. One thing I will mention coming up here, for the rest of the videos, or for the rest of the VR content in general, it's really going to depend on the game. What gets mirrored back to my desktop screen, my monitor screen. Because, when you're running Oculus software, its main purpose is to put it into the Rift. But you may have spectators, you may want to record something like I do here. You may have other people watching you who want to see something, because all they're going to see you is, they're just going to see you kind of flailing around. Some games I've tried so far, they appear in full screen. Like the first couple that I recorded were good about that. Radial G and Dread Halls were good about that. But then you have some of the experience. I did like a little experience, a little animated feature. I did a Lucky's Tale, unfortunately, was a rather tiny window on the desktop. So I do apologize in advance. You may have to, if you are low vision, maybe use kind of Windows magnifier to zoom into that part of the video window. Again, that's just what they chose to show on the computer monitor. So it's something to look at, but it's not going to be as big as you may want it to be. Foo VR, actually that one I don't think was full screen either. It was a little bigger than the Lucky's Tale, but it was still rather small. So yeah, lots of VR content this week. Like I said, I think we'll just kind of blow it all out here, just do a, with all the holidays and vacations and events, and like I said, VR just being kind of such a new and exciting thing, I figured, let's just, I don't want to wait for this. Like, I don't want to, spread all my other content out for you guys and, periodically trickle out this initial VR content. Now that we do have VR, after this initial series of videos, I will kind of be mixing in, low vision spotlights, hardware reviews, PC and iOS content, but we are going to have a couple of other playlists called VR, VR game spotlights and VR experience spotlights, because I do want to differentiate between a virtual reality game and a more passive experience, like watching an event or a video or stuff like that isn't necessarily a full game. So a couple of new playlists that we're going to start entering into the mix here on the channel. So a little more variety for you guys. If you are interested in VR, I'm going to be able to take a look at some of this stuff from a low vision point of view, and it actually has been really kind of exciting because I've already, I've talked a little bit about it on Twitter, kind of teased that I will have some video stuff coming up for VR, which I'm working on here, and I've actually gotten contacted by a person or two who we're trying to advocate for virtual reality accessibility. And like I said, I've mentioned him on the channel before. Mr. Ian Hamilton has been, I met him last year at CSUN, and he's just been really great about, we've talked together online a couple times about a few different topics, game accessibility, game engine accessibility, like your Unities and Unreals and things like that. Kind of a game accessibility idea that I had not too long ago. And he approached me asking for some thoughts on VR myself, so I shared some of the upcoming video links with him as well. So yeah, we're going to wrap it up here. That is kind of a look at the Oculus desktop application and the Oculus Rift. I mean, like I said, from a general use perspective, it's a very solid piece of hardware. I really like it. The software, while basic, is, good. I would actually prefer again, I like the whole Steam thing. I like their dark background. I mean, it's livable. I'll work with a white background, but I would appreciate, like up on the top here, that's much more soothing. Maybe they'll give us under settings, maybe under general or something. Maybe I can switch it to a nice dark mode. That would be appreciated. where things really kind of differ is in individual app or individual VR application and game accessibility. Each game varies a fair degree in how accessible it is for a low vision user. Like I said, Oculus Home itself in the Rift is kinda, I mean, the environment looks cool, but as far as reading anything, because text is where I have the most trouble. I forgot to mention the pointer, like you actually move your head and kind of point at the things, like it's a really tiny pointer as well. So that can be kind of hard to see. I kind of have to move my head around a little bit until I see the little pointer speck on a high contrast part of the background. So, oh, there it is, and now I can kind of guide it to where I want to be. But largely for me right now, the Oculus Home interface is kind of useless because I just can't read in it. It's just too far. It's virtually too far away in the headset there. And as you will soon see, covering some of these other games, they vary in accessibility. I've had generally some pretty good experiences so far. I don't have anything recorded for Chronos yet. I may put this into the initial batch of videos, but that may be something that's just going to come up in the future. But I will tease you to say Chronos is one of the games I'm actually having the most trouble playing right now, and it is kind of a bummer. So, lot to look forward to. Hopefully this gets uploaded very well, and we'll probably kick this off on Sunday and go through Friday or Saturday of this upcoming week. The following week I'm going to be kind of attending the ACB conference in my backyard, so maybe I'll have some coverage of that afterwards as well, but I may not have a lot of time to devote to the channel during that week. So you guys will have a plethora of content. I mean, you've got really long E3 videos, lots of low vision spotlights. There are, especially lately with Terraformers and Skullgirls, if you haven't watched those videos for these PC accessible games, watch those and then go, especially Skullgirls, go buy that game because it's just amazing some of the accessibility stuff they've done there. And then you'll have a lot of this VR content to watch. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. It's definitely something new on the channel. Hope you guys enjoy it. Follow me on Twitter at BGFH79. And until next time, I will talk to you guys again later.